Good morning. How are you guys this morning? Are you excited for day 5 of 10 steps to real food? I am so excited about today. Seriously, today's topic is one that I love talking about. But before we get started, please let me know how you're doing. Let me know if you have any questions. Hey, Jeannie, how are you? Oh, it's so good to see you. So when you come on, give me a little love. Give me a heart emoji. Say hi. Let me know that you're on. Let me know that you're here so that I can say hi to you as well. So how are you doing? How are you doing with your 10 steps? Well, so far you've only had 4. How are you doing with your steps? How are you doing with your salt? I'm going to need a drink of water already. There we go. How are you doing with your salt? How are you doing with your fats, your healthy fats? How are you doing with your fresh fruits and vegetables? How are you doing? I want to hear how you're doing. Let me know if you're having any challenges. Let me know if you're loving everything that I've been sharing with you. And as I mentioned, today's topic is one of my favorites, but I want to remind you, okay, this is a big mint. I'm going to take that one out. I want to remind you what I've been saying all along. You can have the best digestion in the world, absolute ideal digestion. But if you're not eating nutrient-dense foods, you're going to be malnourished, and your body's not going to have the tools that it needs to be healthy, to function properly. Remember that old adage, garbage in, garbage out. You can't eat garbage and expect your body to be healthy and functioning and vibrant. Okay? So the food that you eat really does matter. You can be sitting on a beach in Hawaii in the best parasympathetic state that you could find, because digestion is a function of the parasympathetic nervous system. You can be sitting in Hawaii in the best, most relaxed state possible. Your digestion is functioning wonderfully. And if you're eating McDonald's and you're eating Burger King and you're eating boxed cereal and you're eating lunch meat and you're eating boxed macaroni and cheese and you're drinking soda pop, you are going to be malnourished. Okay, so the 10 steps to real food really do lead to a healthier you. So let's get started with today's topic. When you come on, give me a hi, let me know that you're here, wave at me, give me some love, something, just so that I know that you're there. But today's topic, we're going to be talking about bugs. We're going to talk about bugs today, and specifically the bugs that live in us and the bugs that live on us. Okay, so did you know that there are 10 times more bacteria in our body than there are cells? Did you know that about a pound of our weight is the billions of bugs in our gut? In fact, our digestive system houses over 500 different species of bacteria. Our whole body has about 1,000 different species, but 500 of those are the bugs that are in our gut. And so I like to tease my students and say, so clearly we have bugs, but the question is, what kind of bugs? Do you have friendly bugs or do you have unfriendly bugs living in your gut? Okay, how do you know whether you've got friendly bugs or unfriendly bugs living in your gut? Well, obviously, it makes sense that if you have diarrhea or you have constipation or you have gas or you have bloating or even IBS, those are all pretty good indications that the bugs living in your gut are unfriendly. But did you know that allergies are also an indication that it's unfriendly bacteria in your gut? And eczema is also an indication that you have unfriendly bacteria in your gut. And kidney stones are an indication that you have unfriendly bacteria in your gut. But also strep throat and ear infections and yeast infections, vaginal yeast infections are all indications. But also Crohn's disease and thrush and lactose intolerance and even athlete's foot and cancer. All of these are indications that you have unfriendly bacteria in your gut. And there's a whole long list too. There's a longer list on my website. There's an article on there written by a friend of mine called Taming the Yeasty Beasties. And if you want to go in there and see a full list of indications of dysbiosis in your gut bacteria, that's a really good place to start. So what contributes to intestinal imbalance with the bacteria? I mean, because obviously we want friendly bacteria in our body, but once we get it there, we want to keep it, right? So what happens that gets rid of the bad or the friendly bacteria and allows the bad bacteria to flourish? Well, you might be surprised, but or maybe not. Chlorine. Chlorine that we're is bleach, right? Chlorine that we have in our drinking water. Chlorine is supposed we use it to clean things, to clean bacteria. So it's no surprise that if we drink it, it's going to disrupt the intestinal flora balance, right? So drinking fluorinated water and chlorinated water, fluoride as well, disrupts the microbiota in your gut. But also alcohol. If you drink alcohol, you're disrupting the friendly bacteria. And that makes sense because they used to use alcohol to sterilize wounds. So that makes sense. But did you also know that birth control pills disrupt your gut flora? Obviously, your diet does, but stress does as well. And disease and antibiotics, of course, antibiotics, because antibiotics are designed to kill bacteria and they don't care whether it's friendly bacteria or unfriendly bacteria, but not just the antibiotics that we take for ourselves, but antibiotics in food that we eat transfers over to us. Okay, and for infants, formula feeding also makes that change and disrupts the gut bacteria. Okay, so those are some things that um, prevent our healthy bacteria, our friendly bacteria, I should say, from from thriving. And one more thing that we can add to that is antibacterial soap, which just kind of indiscriminately kills bacteria and actually is leading to the superbug that everyone's talking about, right? The super bacteria that are resistant to um, antibiotics. Okay. And there's a really neat quote that I want to share with you. It's by a doctor of pediatrics and gastroenterology at the University of Chicago. And her name or his name is Stefano. Oh, I'm going to butcher this one. Guadagnini. He or she, Stefano, sounds like it would be a guy. In societies with very good hygiene, we have seen a sharp increase in autoimmune and allergic diseases. And then he goes on to say, okay, now catch that. In societies with very good hygiene, okay, an increase in autoimmune disease and allergies. Then he goes on to say that may be because the immune system isn't being properly challenged by the pathogenic organisms. Introducing friendly bacteria in the form of probiotics is believed to challenge the immune system in healthy ways. Well, I find that really interesting because this is an older quote. And so it used to be believed that the friendly bacteria in our gut challenged your body's immune system so that it responded better. Well, now we know that it doesn't challenge it, but it helps it. The friendly bacteria in our gut actually help our body's immune system. And there was a genome project that has been being conducted to categorize the human genes, right? And one of the surprising things that came out of that project was the discovery that the human body really has a smaller amount of genes than even a specific grain or strain of rice. This particular strain of rice that they were comparing the human genes to had over, let me see, where are my numbers here? It had about 5 to 10,000 more genes than the human body. So the human body had a certain number of genes, and this grain of rice had 4 or 5 times more. And they were kind of surprised at that. And then they've kind of come to the conclusion that, well, maybe it's because we have all these bacteria that live in us and on us that help us become who we are. Think about that. That's really interesting, that by having the friendly bacteria that help our immune system, that help our digestive system, that help our emotional well-being, and we'll talk about that later, they actually help us be us. And that when we're randomly killing the bacteria that live in us and on us, especially the friendly bacteria, when we're just randomly killing it, we're actually hampering our ability to function and be healthy. Okay, think about that. I think that's really interesting. So ideally, your gut, your lower intestine, so your colon primarily, but also your small intestine, should contain at least 85% friendly bacteria in order to prevent the overcolonization of disease-causing unfriendly bacteria. Okay, so what that means is that if we have 85% friendly bacteria in our gut, then our bodies can handle the 15% unfriendly bacteria in our gut. Well, the problem is that nowadays most people have that reversed. We don't have 85% friendly and 15% unfriendly. With our modern society, chances are pretty good that we have only 15% friendly and 85% friendly, or some other kind of ratio that's not nearly close to what we want it to be. So if you're understanding, if that makes sense, give me a little heart emoji, let me know, smile, or give me a smiley face, let me know that you're understanding so far why it's important that we have friendly bacteria in our gut. So in today's mini class, today's step number 5, I want to talk about probiotics. I want to talk about what they are, why we need them, what they do, where we get them, and that's going to be part of your step, where we get them, and then how do we keep them once we have them so that we're not just flipping that ratio again. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about today. So probiotics are live microorganisms that when we have them in our body in sufficient quantities, they give us health benefits, right? They confer health benefits. They help us. And in fact, the reason we need them is because our good health depends on this symbiotic relationship that we have with the bacteria in our digestive system. Okay, now symbiotic means that we help them live and they help us live. So that symbiotic relationship helps both of us. Okay, so what do the friendly bacteria in our gut do? Well, first of all, if we have a lot of friendly bacteria in our gut, they're going to prevent the overgrowth of unfriendly bacteria just by competing in that intestinal tract for space. Okay, they're also going to hamper the growth of harmful bacteria. They produce things that can actually lower cholesterol in some people. Isn't that kind of interesting? They they line that intestinal barrier of our digestive tract. So the digestive tract goes from the mouth, from tongue to tail, right? That whole tract. The bacteria line it and create an extra barrier that makes it more impermeable so that you don't get leaky gut. You've probably heard of leaky gut, right? Well, some of the bacteria actually produce vitamins like vitamin K. And some of the bacteria consume oxalates, and oxalates contribute to kidney stones. Okay, so they consume oxalates. They improve the digestion of food and the absorption of vitamins in our digestive system. They help with the digestion of lactose. So some people are lactose intolerant. Well, the friendly bacteria actually help with the digestion of lactose. Let's see. Oh, they fight precarcinogenic or mutagenic compounds. So as the body goes through the life cycle, remember I've mentioned before that that our body reproduces cells. Some or regenerate cells. Some cells regenerate every 1 to 3 days. Other cells regenerate every 3 months. Okay. Well, as the cell is going through its life cycle, it should naturally die, and friendly bacteria help it do that. Unfriendly bacteria don't and can actually turn the cell can either mutate it or turn it in cancerous. So having friendly bacteria that allows the cell to go through its natural life cycle is really beneficial to us, right? Now, the other thing is that friendly bacteria help prevent cavities because bacteria, causes cavities. And so there's lots of really good things that having friendly bacteria in our gut can help us, okay? Really good things that the friendly bacteria do for us. So how do we get friendly bacteria? Okay, so before I go on to that, hey Shelly, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Let me know if this is making sense to you. Let me know if you're understanding why we need friendly bacteria in our gut, if that makes sense. That, bugs are friendly. We want our bugs are good for us as long as they're the good ones, right? Let me know if that makes sense to you. So where do we get the friendly bacteria in our gut? Well, initially, ideally, we get them at birth. As we go through the vaginal canal, we get inoculated with the bacteria that from our mom. So hopefully mom has friendly bacteria because whatever bacteria she has, we're getting inoculation. Okay, so we get our bacteria from birth. Okay, and so for children who are born via C-section, that kind of puts them at a detriment. So it's a really good idea for them for mom to do something, either if hopefully she's nursing, to make sure she's getting plenty of friendly bacteria because that will transport to the child through nursing as well. But we also get friendly bacteria from our environment. Okay, friendly bacteria are all over, in the air, in the water, in the soil. In fact, there's different types of bacteria. Some of them are transient, which means they go in, they do good things while they're in there, and then they're excreted. Other friendly bacteria or other bacteria are colonizing bacteria. And so we ingest them or we get them somehow at birth or through the environment, but we ingest them and then they colonize in our colon and they begin to live there and they form that protective barrier along the digestive tract that I mentioned before. And they push out the unfriendly bacteria and they begin living as part in that symbiotic relationship with us. Okay. And the neat thing is that typically the bacteria that are the microbiomes that are in the soil are the ones that are colonizing. So if you go out to your garden and you pull out a carrot and you wipe off the dirt, rub it off on your shirt, whatever, and eat it, obviously you haven't gotten rid of all the bacteria, and so you're going to be getting some good friendly probiotic um, an inoculation just by eating that carrot. Or same thing with the tomato. If you wipe the tomato off, and you're going to get some from that as well. So we get them from our environment. We also get friendly bacteria from the food that we eat. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit today. So if you're understanding so far, if you're with me so far, let me know. Yes, give me a thumbs up, something so that you're understanding and you're with me so far. Okay. So what about the food that we eat? What foods can we eat that will help us enhance the microbiota in our gut, that will improve that environment in our gut so that it's got the 85% friendly and it's pushing out some of that unfriendly, right? Well, one thing that's pretty common nowadays, we know that we can eat yogurt, right? We know that yogurt contains friendly bacteria. But I'm going to counsel you to be very careful about that because a lot of times the yogurt, they're using pasteurized milk, so there's no friendly bacteria in the milk. And that's why they pasteurize it, to make sure there's no bacteria. Then they put bacteria in there, and then they do a lot of stuff. They add flavorings, they add sugar, which does not feed the friendly bacteria, and then they'll pasteurize it again. Okay? So you need to make sure that if you're having yogurt, that either you've made it yourself so you know that it's got friendly bacteria in there and lots of it, or you get one that guarantees a certain number of live organisms. Okay. Now, another choice would be milk kefir, but specifically the milk kefir that you make at home, which is so super easy with the grains. You put the grains in the milk, let it sit on the counter overnight, strain it, and you've got a probiotic drink that's that's been used for centuries. And the story of milk kefir is really kind of fascinating. Maybe I'll tell you that later. But there's a difference between the bacteria that you get in yogurt and the bacteria that you get in kefir. Not just this different strains, because they both have strains of the lactobacillus strains, but the strains of bacteria in yogurt are generally transient. The transient bacteria have a really hard time bypassing or surviving the digestive juices of the stomach. So typically if you take a probiotic capsule and it's got the transient, they're going to throw in a whole bunch just in hopes that some of them will get through the digestive enzymes in the stomach. Okay. Well, milk kefir not only has the transient bacteria, but it has also the colonizing bacteria. It has both. And so if I had to choose between yogurt and kefir, I would choose kefir any day. Now, you can also get friendly bacteria from traditionally fermented foods like sauerkraut. Now, I'm not talking the sauerkraut that you make with vinegar and that you cook, okay? Because if you're going to be cooking it, first of all, you're going to be killing it. And if you're using vinegar, unless you're using a raw apple cider vinegar, the vinegar doesn't really have any probiotic benefits either. So you want the sauerkraut that you've made yourself through fermentation. And the same thing with naturally fermented pickles, not the cucumbers that you soak in vinegar, but the ones that you ferment in a brine. That's what you want, okay? You can get friendly bacteria from natural cheese. You can get friendly bacteria from real sourdough bread. You can get friendly bacteria from buttermilk. Now, I want you to understand that just because yogurt has transient bacteria and kefir has colonizing, it actually has both, doesn't mean that you should never have yogurt. In fact, the more varieties of friendly bacteria that you have in your body, the better it is, because each bacteria, each species does something different. Okay. Hi, Shelly. Thank you so much for the love. Each bacteria does something different, and so it's going to benefit you in different ways. So even if it's yogurt that's going to be a transient bacteria that may not survive the digestive juices of the stomach, it's still going to do good things from mouth to the stomach. And so it's going to help with cavities, and it's going to help with that digestive process from the stomach or from the mouth to the stomach. So don't think that you shouldn't have yogurt. I'm just saying don't make yogurt the only source of bacteria, of friendly bacteria that you have. Does that make sense? Am I making sense there? So give me a thumbs up or something. Let me know that that makes sense. So once we have friendly bacteria, it's going to be important that we keep it. Okay. Now, this is where these 10 steps to a healthier you come in. Okay. Because friendly bacteria live on real food. They eat and consume the wastes of our digestion of real food. Unfriendly bacteria live and survive on refined white flour, refined white sugar, and those are things that our friendly bacteria don't survive. Okay, so let's talk about some of the foods that are specifically really good for helping our friendly bacteria to survive and live. Okay, well, asparagus is one that's really good. Jerusalem artichokes, that's kind of a root, a tuber that we can eat kind of like potatoes or even raw on salad. It's kind of crunchy. It's actually, I like that. Bananas are a good one, a good source of fiber, but our friendly bacteria like bananas. They like berries. Friendly bacteria like oatmeal. And we're going to be talking about how to properly prepare oatmeal tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but next week. But having oatmeal with fresh berries, really good for the friendly bacteria. Throw some really good butter on there to help absorb with the absorption of the healthy fats and to slow down the absorption of the carbs, right, that turn into glucose. And then raw honey and fresh maple syrup, the real kind. Those are actually sugars that feed friendly bacteria. So instead of putting sugar on your oatmeal or whatever, put a little bit of maple syrup or a little bit of honey, Not a lot, but a little, and that will actually sweeten, but it will also feed our friendly bacteria. Now, beans also feed the friendly bacteria, legumes, all different kinds of beans. Garlic, and garlic is part of this protocol that I've developed that I call Perfect Trifecta for Intestinal Health. That's really kind of a good one. We'll talk maybe about that later. But garlic is a prebiotic, which means it feeds the friendly bacteria. But also dandelion greens and other types of greens, wheat and flaxseed and chicory, all of those real foods are especially beneficial for helping our the microbiota diversity in our gut. So we want to make sure that once we get this friendly bacteria in our gut, that we're feeding it things that allow it to live. And what's really interesting is that the things that allow the friendly bacteria to live are also the things that give us good health. Now, remember, it's very important that when you're eating these fruits and vegetables, that they're not sprayed in pesticides. Because what do pesticides do? They kill bugs. Well, what are probiotics? Friendly bugs. We don't want pesticide laden food getting into our body and disrupting that balance between the friendly bacteria and the unfriendly bacteria. Okay, so here is your challenge for today. Your challenge today, and I'm going to give you a good and a better way. We'll see if there's a best. Well, I'm going to give you, there is a best. I'm going to give you a good, I'm going to give you a better, and I'm going to give you a best. Okay? So to get friendly bacteria in your gut, friendly bacteria that will help with your digestion, friendly bacteria that will help with your cholesterol, friendly bacteria that will help prevent kidney stones, friendly bacteria that help cells from becoming cancerous or mutagenic, friendly bacteria that protect and coat the digestive lining, friendly bacteria that help prevent cavities. Your challenge for today is good. Start taking every day some kind of probiotic supplement. Okay? That's a good way to get it. In the comments, I'm going to put 2 brands that I really like. You want to make sure if you're buying one that it's got a good variety of, and it's not just a single strain or 2 or 3 strains. There are hundreds of varieties of friendly bacteria. You shouldn't be taking a supplement that has 1 or 2 varieties, okay? You want a good variety of friendly bacteria. So the 2 varieties that I like, one is BioCult, and the other one is by Microbiome Labs. It's called Mega Spore Biotic. Okay, and that's actually the one that I take. I really like Megaspore Biotic. They actually have this total gut restoration protocol. I'm going to put the link to both of those, to BioCult and to Megaspore Biotic. I'm going to put their links in there, but by Megaspore Biotics by Microbiome Labs. Microbiome Labs has this really good total gut restoration protocol that starts you with the Megaspore Biotic, and then it continues by adding in a prebiotic, and then it continues on with a mucosal lining repair. Okay, BioCult though is really good as well. It has different strain recipes. What's it called? Different formulations, and they have one that's good for children too. So that's kind of a nice one if you want to give something to your kids. Okay, so your challenge for today is to start getting friendly bacteria in your gut. A good way to do that is to take a probiotic. Okay, a better way to do that is to eat a variety of fermented foods. Okay, and there are some different, you don't have to always make them, although that's going to be the best, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But you can buy traditionally naturally fermented food from the grocery store. You can get it from natural grocers. You can get some from Real Foods. You can get some from Whole Foods markets. I've seen them even over at Dick's Market. I've seen them over at Harmon's as well. And so the varieties, when I don't want to make my own fermented foods, Bubby's is a really good one. They've got a sauerkraut and they've got naturally fermented pickles as well. I'll see if I can find a link for those and stick those in the comments. And then there's another brand that I bought over at Dick's Market that was in a bag instead of a jar. And I don't remember what that was called, but it was clearly labeled, live microorganisms, naturally fermented. And so you can find that in the grocery store and you can start eating at every single meal. That's going to be your better, right? So good is to take a probiotic supplement every day. Better is to eat fermented foods at every single meal, perhaps that you buy at the grocery store. Best, okay, let's back up for a minute. How do you eat them at every single meal? Okay, so for breakfast, fermented food might be yogurt, it might be milk kefir, right? For lunch, fermented food might be adding a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of sauerkraut, or having a naturally fermented pickle, or if you make your own, you can do some really good carrots that are fermented. You can do beets that are fermented. You can do chutneys that are fermented. You can do salsas that are fermented. And that's why making your own is the best way. Because when you make your own, you can make a wide variety of ferments. And when you make a wide variety of ferments and you're doing it at home, a couple of things happen. Each of the different foods are going to kind of contain their own bacteria that will then multiply and you'll get friendly bacteria. But in the air, you have friendly bacteria, okay? And so when you're making it at home, you're getting the friendly bacteria from your environment. And as I said before, I'm a firm believer that the things growing in my environment have things that are beneficial to me and my health living where I'm living. So not that a fermented food made in West Virginia isn't going to have some benefit to me, but my guess is that that same fermented food made where I live is going to have greater benefit because it's going to have bacteria that are going to aid me in the pathogens that I encounter in my environment. So that's one of the reasons that eating local is so important, because you're going to be exposed to the nutrients and the friendly bacteria that are going to be beneficial to you in the environment in which you live. Does that make sense? Okay, so best is going to be making your own fermented foods. Well, for some of you, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, where do I even begin? I'm going to give you a book recommendation, and probably a couple of them, because there are some wonderful, wonderful resources on how you start fermenting. And so if you want to try it this weekend, if you want to try fermenting this weekend, I'm going to give you a recipe in the comments for a super simple way to start fermenting. And it's just by making sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is so easy. And I'm going to just give you some basic instructions right now. You shred up the sauerkraut, or the cabbage. You shred up the cabbage. You add some seasoning. You add some real salt. And you start pounding the cabbage. And what happens is that cabbage starts to produce a liquid. And you just keep pounding it in the bowl, okay? And it produces more and more liquid. You transfer it to a quart jar and you keep pounding and pushing it, not as hard because you don't want it to squirt all over, but you keep pushing it underneath the liquid so that the cabbage is underneath that liquid, okay? Then you seal it and you let it sit on your counter. You might burp it every day because it starts to bubble, right? And after 3 to 5 days, you smell it and you can tell that it's doing really good. You can ferment it longer. The longer it ferments, the more the friendly bacteria there are. But after about 3 to 5 days, you can stick it in cold storage or stick it in your refrigerator. It's going to continue the fermentation process. It's just that the coldness slows it down. And you can eat it whenever you're ready, anytime after 3 to 5 days or even longer. And it doesn't go bad. There's stories I could tell you, not only from my personal experience, but from historical stories that have been passed down about sailors that carry barrels of sauerkraut on their long voyages, and it prevents them from getting scurvy because one of the things it does is produce vitamin C, right? So if you want to try your own, I'm going to give you the recipe for sauerkraut that maybe you can try this weekend. Super, super simple, super simple. But I'll also give you some book recommendations. One of my favorite books is Nourishing Traditions by Sally Fallon Morell. Wonderful, wonderful place to start. Sandor Katz has some really good books on fermentation as well. There's a website that has basically an online training program called Gnauflins, and I'll put that in the comments. She has some really good online resources and classes that you can take for taking you step by step to become, I don't want to say an expert in fermentation, but comfortable with fermentation. So that's your challenge for today. Start getting some friendly bacteria in your gut to help your body be healthy, to help your body with its body functions, to help your body do the things it's supposed to do, live healthy, be healthy. And here's the other thing too that I didn't mention. Friendly bacteria actually help with the production of neurotransmitters, okay, um, like serotonin and dopamine. So having friendly bacteria in your gut actually helps with mental health. It can help with depression. It can help with anxiety. It can help with PTSD. All those things that are or that are influenced by neurotransmitters in the brain. More serotonin is produced in the gut than is produced in the brain. So having friendly bacteria is so, so important for your physical health, for your mental health, for your emotional health. So that's one of the reasons why today's challenge and step 5 of 5 steps or 10 steps to real food and a healthier you, let's get some friendly bacteria in our gut. And I'm going to be sharing sources in the comments. I'm going to be sharing recipes in the comments so that you can get started hopefully this weekend. I know it's Valentine's weekend, but maybe before you go out with your sweetheart this tomorrow evening or tonight, maybe tomorrow morning, you can try making some good probiotic sauerkraut. Now I'm going to give you a tip. When you make the sauerkraut, if you want it to be a little bit sweeter and not so tart, because sauerkraut can be a little bit tangy, and I actually like the tang, but to make it a little more sweeter, put some grated carrots in there as well. So you've got the grated cabbage, throw a little bit of grated carrots in there as well, along with the seasonings like caraway seed or whatever, or you could even throw some dill in there if you want, and then the salt. Now remember that you're using unrefined sea salt, not the bitter salt that's been refined when you're making your sauerkraut. But I'll put the recipe in the comments for you. I'll put some other resources in there for you. I really want to hear next week because our next class is going to be on Monday. I'm not going to be on in the group over the week. Well, I'll be in the group, but I'm not going to be doing a live over the weekend. So the next step, so day 6, step 6 is going to be on Monday at 10 o'clock. I'll be here. So I want to hear on Monday if you took the challenge to make your own sauerkraut, which is best, right? Or if you did good and you went and purchased one of the probiotics that I recommended, or maybe a different one that was recommended by your naturopath or by your OD. Is it OD? Yeah, OD. If you did good by getting a probiotic, or if you did better by going and buying a naturally fermented food, or if you did best. So I want to hear on Monday if you were good, better, or best in your pursuit of friendly bacteria and in moving toward that 85% friendly and that 15% unfriendly. Now I want to tell you one more thing. See, and you should know by now that you never hang up early on these calls because there's always one more thing that I forget to tell you. Some people will tell me as we talk about how to eat healthy, well, does this mean that I can never go out to dinner with my honey? I mean, obviously we know that they're not giving us the best, organic fruits and vegetables and pasture raised, meats or whatever. How do I go out? Well, when you've got that good balance of 85% friendly and 15% unfriendly, your body can handle the 15% unfriendly. So that means that, yeah, you can go out every once in a while. You can go out once a week if you want, sometimes even twice a week, as long as the majority of your food and nutrition is coming from home. Isn't that wonderful? That doesn't mean you have to feel deprived. That just means you have to take control of your health and be proactive in eating good, healthy food at home so that when you go out and you get exposed to the garbage, that your body can handle it. Okay, does that make sense? So let's start working toward that 85% friendly, the 15% unfriendly, so that our bodies can thrive and they can have the defenses that we need in order to be good, to live good and healthy lives. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope this made sense. I hope you're enjoying your 10 steps to real food and a healthier you. I will see you on Monday. Please show me some love in the comments. Give me a thumbs up, give me a heart. Let me know that everything that I'm telling you is making sense. Let me know your progress. Let me know how you're doing. How if you've got any questions, share them with me in the comments and I'm happy to answer them for you. Anyway, Kathy Atkinson saying goodbye. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you Monday at 10 o'clock. Bye-bye.